Good morning. Good morning. We are glad to have you here on Morning After. I'm Jenny Anchondo, and today we're talking about going back to work because here's the deal. You know, if your employer decides that it's safe for you to do so, it sounds like you do have to go back to work, but there are some legal circumstances we wanted to get into. So for that, we brought in Sarah Rogers, who's an attorney at Crain Brogdon. Rogers, good morning, Sarah.
Good morning, Jenny. Thanks for having me.
We're glad to dive into this because some people have been off work for a while and they're just sort of getting ready to re-enter the workforce, and some are saying, gosh, you know, I'm really not comfortable. What are my rights here? And it sounds like if your employer says it's okay to do so, you do have to go back to work unless you obviously quit your job.
Absolutely. These are stressful times and tough decisions, but unless you have a physical disability or some other medical condition preventing you from going back to work, if your employer says, let's get back to work, then you need to get back to work.
And it sounds like a lot of employers are really kind of going above and beyond by saying, look, this is a situation where I would rather have as many employees at home as possible than crowd the building, but they're not legally obligated to do so. So let's talk about this. If somebody contracts COVID at work, what's the legal scenario, or how would you even know that they contracted it at work, and would your employer be responsible for treatment or testing?
These are all great questions, and honestly, it's evolving over time, but legally the employer has the duty to create the safe workplace for its employees. In Texas, we have workers' comp. If your employer carries workers' compensation, then you will have to file a claim and go through that route with your employer if you contracted COVID at work. Now, if they do not have comp, you might be able to bring a lawsuit against them, and you may be able to sue them even if they have workers' comp. The remedies and burdens of proof would be different. But you brought up a great point, Jenny, is they are going to have to prove that they contracted it at work. And that's going to be difficult unless you only are at your place of employment and at your house. If you go anywhere else, there's that potential out there, and that's going to be a challenge for folks to prove.
Now, if somebody is exposed at work, who pays for the test? We know that if you're exposed, you should be, you know, we are told that if you have a known exposure, you should go get tested. Who pays for it, the employee or the employer, if the exposure is at work?
Sure, it should be the employer. That's on them as well, and we know there's free testing sites, so don't let that be a barrier to getting tested right away. But the employer and hopefully their health care would cover that expense for the employees.
Okay, we know that Texas companies have to establish what's considered a safe workplace. I'm hearing different things from different friends about employers providing nothing and then employers going really above and beyond. What should they be providing? And if an employer is watching right now, you know, maybe they don't even know, what should they be providing?
Sure. So we got this, a slide and some notes from the CDC. Employers should be checking those CDC guidelines. It's not good enough to just check them once. As we know, they're changing, they're being updated. So check those guidelines. Again, this is going to vary on the workplace itself. If you've got a bunch of cubicles in a very small safe, you may need to take different precautions as if you've got an open space or people maybe with offices and office doors they can shut. So check the CDC guidelines, use your common sense, and know that your employer is there and has that duty to put those positions and things in place to protect its employees if they're requiring them to come back.
I didn't realize that employers should be providing the masks and stuff like that, so that's interesting. Sarah Rogers, thank you for your time this morning and for sorting it out.
Thank you for having me.
And I want to give everybody their information. It is crainbrogdonrogers.com. They're also on social media at CBR Law Firm, and they can answer some more questions on that.